Hi, I'm Tim from engagemystaff.com, and this video is about respect and magic, two acronyms you need to know to boost staff engagement. So let's start with respect. Well, this acronym really comes from the work of Dr. Paul Marciano, who's a leading behavioural psychologist, an authority on employee engagement and retention. His book, Carrots and Sticks Don't Work, Build a Culture of Employee Engagement with the Principles of Respect, explains the acronym, and I'm going to summarise it for you right here, right now. We'll just go deep enough for you to be able to identify if you or your clients are using any of these elements in day-to-day dealings with staff. Let's start with R for recognition. According to cosmetics founder Mary Kay Ash, there are two things people want more than sex and money: recognition and praise. Dr. Paul in the book says that acknowledgement, praise, and even just a simple thank you will lead to staff more consistently replicating the behaviour that prompted the recognition. Just ask yourself, in your time as an employee, if you were one, do you feel that you are adequately recognised by your boss? Would it be a never, sometimes, or mostly? And if you are or were a boss, think about whether you've been giving recognition in the form of acknowledgement and praise. Is it a never, sometimes, or mostly? There's no judgment here. This is just awareness raising. And from awareness comes growth. Now we look at E for empowerment. What do you need to do to empower your staff? Well, this is about giving them the right tools and resources and training. It's also about letting go yourself. You can't hold on to that baby forever. So you need to be able to delegate effectively and have the mindset that your staff can and will do what's required if you let them. Next up is S for supportive feedback. You need to give feedback, full stop. Letting your staff go along in their own bubble creates so many issues for you, them, and your customers as well. Giving the right feedback, or the right kind of feedback, whether it's positive or negative, becomes paramount. Feedback also needs to be consistent. If you have children, you know about that. It's a never-ending story. Just giving feedback once doesn't cut it. Well, your staff are no different. Your feedback needs to be specific, actionable, and timely, and it's a skill you will want to learn. You're also getting to know your staff better during the process, and that's an added bonus. Okay, now P for partnering. No longer is a boss just a boss. They must begin to bring their staff on as partners in the vision and mission for the business. The engaged employee or staff member treats the business as though they own it. This partnering is achieved by fostering teamwork and a no one wins unless everyone wins emphasis. It also requires open communication, adherence to a common mission and vision. When I was consulting in software implementations, I rarely saw this partnering done well. Many owners and managers are worried about giving away too much information. They don't trust their staff with it, or they just assume that their staff knows the important goals, targets and values of the owners and business. You know what happens when you assume? You really can't over-communicate. The second E is for expectations. Dr. Paul, the Respect author, is saying you've got to be making your expectations clear to your staff. Often when expectations are not met, it's because the supervisor or manager failed to set them. You may be getting frustrated because your ideas and dreams are not coming to fruition, but so is your staff getting frustrated. Spend the time to make sure that goals, tasks, KPIs are well defined and clear. You'll actually get what you want as well. Learning the skill of effective delegation can be a game changer also. I had a boss once who was afraid to set targets because he didn't have the confidence in his own desire or ability to reach them. It was very confusing and consequently stunted growth and improvement. Okay, RESPEC, for consideration. There is a John Maxwell quote: "People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care." Consideration in the respect model refers to giving careful thought to a person or idea and is demonstrated through words and actions. Considerate supervisors and managers foster high levels of loyalty in their staff. Staff also take pride in their organisation. You show consideration if you ask for input when you're making big decisions about things that will directly impact staff. Asking this also allays people's fears. Knowing about people's lives or getting to know them is also part of this element. You show consideration when you show some interest in them as people and get to know the things they like and dislike. I've got an example of how this consideration works in social settings, but I think it crosses over to the workplace. So, remember the last time you were out socialising and were meeting some new people? Some of the people you met only talked about themselves. They didn't ask anything about you or your life, while others kept you engaged because they made an effort and had the good grace to ask about you and most likely showed some interest in your responses to their questions. So, when you left that event, who did you want to see or connect with again? Who would you want to engage with again? Was it the person who couldn't stop talking about themselves? Or was it the person who asked about what you did and what you're into? I know which people I'm drawn to. It's the latter. In fact, I'm now hyper aware of it when I'm out meeting new people, and sometimes after a meeting, my wife and I look at each other and go, "They didn't ask one question about us. Who does that?" So I'm suggesting you turn that around to staff. If you, as a manager or the boss, never show an interest in them personally, will they feel more inclined to engage with you and your business goals and mission? Probably not. Lastly, T is for trust. Level of trust, according to Gallup Foundation, is a fundamental differentiator of staff engagement. In a trust environment, there is open sharing of information. There's no hoarding of resources. Trusted staff have a greater level of creativity and initiative. The opposite of trust is micromanaging. I'm sure you've had an example of a micromanager. There's nobody who likes it, and neither do spouses and partners, because they experience the venting and frustration every night you get home. I call this the disengagement ripple-down effect. Dr. Dre is my acronym. It might need a little bit of work, but the point is, the unhappiness spreads. You, as boss, you don't want to be an unhappiness super spreader. So that wraps up the respect model, the elements required to create engagement. Engagement is that place where staff have an intrinsic, deep-rooted and sweeping sense of commitment, pride and loyalty, not easily altered. Paying people for their work is not enough. Good conditions and perks are not enough anymore. These are just the price of admission to have satisfied and motivated staff. Now we get to the magic. This acronym is the work of Tracy Maylett, who holds a doctorate in organisation change and consults on the subject around the world. His book is Employment Magic: 5 Keys for Engaging People, Leaders and Organisations. So, M is for meaning. Tracy uses a definition of meaning. Your work has purpose beyond the work itself. It's a feeling that the work you are doing is about more than just making money. It's making a difference in someone else's life. It's continuing to work way past your knock-off time or not even feeling tired. Tracy also notes that the meaning is created by the employee or staff member themselves. The business can't create it for them, but the business can create the environment where people can find that meaning. A, for autonomy. The definition here is that autonomy is the power to shape your work and environment in ways that allow you to perform at your best. Daniel Pink is quoted in the book as saying, "Control leads to compliance. Autonomy leads to engagement." He doesn't quite say it like that, but I'm sure if you've not heard of Daniel Pink, he's another leader in the field of personal motivation and staff engagement. In the respect model previously, the concept autonomy comes from the empowerment and expectation areas. Knowing what you have to do and being able to get on with it and do it. G, for growth. Here, we are shown that developing employees and giving them a path for growth is one more engagement key. The definition of growth is being stretched and challenged in ways that result in personal and professional progress. We're now getting into 2022 and most people back at their achievement for the past year. Just think about the warm and fuzzy feeling you get when you look at your progress and where you've risen to a challenge. For your staff, wouldn't you want them to be getting that same warm and fuzzy feeling? I, impact. This sometimes is confused with meaning, but the difference with impact is that there are outcomes that can be measured. Impact is the result of your work, whereas meaning is the why. People need to feel that they are making progress on goals or initiatives. If the work is repetitive, they need to be included in project work. You don't want to create a hamster wheel or Groundhog Day environment. And lastly, C in the magic model is for connection. This is a basic human need and sits on Maslow's hierarchy just above physical safety. The book defines connection as the sense of belonging to something beyond yourself. This is about building camaraderie in the business, and there are a few stages that staff work through before true connection is found. So that's the magic model and the 5 keys to building engagement. So what was the point of walking through these acronyms? Well, I've found in my research and experience with staff engagement that these 2 models explain best the elements or keys to creating a great workplace with very high staff engagement. I've used them as the base for my course on staff engagement, but gone granular in the execution side. There is lots of information in these books, but for most busy leaders, in my experience, they need bite-sized learning and activities with a measurable outcome. The elements I've used in the course are the skills and methods for leaders to master so they can move confidently on their staff engagement journey. You can find more detail about the online course and access all the resources you need at engagemystaff.com.